We've all heard the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't buy that. As a 50-year-old, I don't buy that. We're going to do the 10 advantages older adults have when learning to play guitar. I'm Brandon, and this is MyPOVGuitar. Welcome. If you're not familiar with us, MyPOVGuitar teaches you to play guitar from your point of view, the player's point of view. The camera angle and the way I teach helps take so much of the mystery away from learning to play guitar. That way you can leapfrog. If you are an older adult, you can bypass all the mistakes I made and get to it. But for this video, let's get into the 10 advantages older adults have when learning to play guitar. Number 1 on the list is greater patience and focus. There are a lot of things that we're not patient with as we get older. Usually, we have no tolerance for a lot of things. Grumpy old men, right? Old man yelling at clouds. That's just because we don't have time to waste and we don't put up with a bunch of BS, just to be honest, right? But as far as taking on tasks, we have a lifetime of experience of honing in and doing a task and having patience because we know nothing comes easy. Nothing comes easy, okay? And focus. We want to get it done and we stick with it till it gets done. So we have an advantage over younger people. And this isn't a bashing younger people, okay? I learned to play guitar when I was 12. I'm 50. So it's not like I don't know what it's like to learn as a young person, but I'm not about throwing your hands up and going, I wish I'd have learned in my 20s. I don't care how old you are, okay? Number 2 on the list is emotional maturity. As we get older, we have a deeper emotional understanding of things. We feel things. In some ways, we get cold and we get hard on certain things, but we tend to soften up in a lot of ways too. And music is one of those things that we tend to appreciate more as we get older. Maybe we don't stay with the current trends or whatever as much, but we feel music. And when you're picking up the guitar, so much of that is feel. I have gone to watch people play who could run circles around me on guitar, and they hit all the notes right, but there was something missing. It was this. I didn't feel anything, and they didn't do anything wrong. They played every note right, but it did feel like they were just technically playing the right notes. I didn't feel that they felt it, and then I didn't feel it, right? As an older adult, you'll have more feeling. It will come out. You'll be more expressive than possibly someone younger who doesn't have that much life experience and they're just trying to put their fingers here and play this note and do the thing so they can do it, right? The third advantage that older adults have if they're just now picking up the guitar is life experience. There's no substitute for life experience. No substitute for experience. You can read everything in a book, but until you do it, that's the best teacher, right? And this will help you in everything from learning guitar to how you play. You've lived life long enough to know that you've probably surprised yourself along the years of taking on tasks that you thought you could never accomplish, and then you surprise yourself because you stuck with it. And it will also, at this point, you know what you'll stick with. You kind of know where your pain points are and which things bother you and where you give up. And you already know, you know yourself a lot better than if you were younger. You know what you can take on and still keep pushing through. It will also manifest itself in the music that you play. The songs you may want to be learning, the cover songs or something, it may hold a special place in your heart and it brings back memories. You have all these emotions tied possibly with the songs that you're wanting to learn. If you're wanting to write songs or make your own music, you have this whole lifetime of experiences that, you can just draw from. And again, I don't want to discount how much emotion makes great music. It's not just technical skill. The fourth advantage that older adults have if they're just now picking up the guitar is clearer goals. Look, you get to a certain stage in life, you're not doing things that you don't want to do. If you pick up a task that you want to do, if there's something you want to learn, you don't do it by accident because you've learned to block out your time, and there's some things you've learned not to waste time on. And if it's something you want to do, you'll do it because you have a clear goal in mind. You're not just willy-nilly going to start, well, I think I want to play guitar. No, when you're older, you don't mess around. So if you decide, I'm going to play guitar, odds are in your favor that you'll stick with it till you do it. Number 5 on our list is access to resources, better equipment, better instruments. You can start off, you're better along in life financially, right, than someone just starting out. You don't have to just play what somebody gives you or buys you as a present. You can get a nicer guitar. You can pay for online lessons, a course, or guitar lessons. You have access to more tools to teach you, and that will help speed you along faster than maybe if you didn't have any resources like that. We kind of touched on number 6 a little bit previously, but time management skills. Life's hard, man. Life's busy. We're all juggling things, whether it be family, work, hobbies, things that have to get done around the house. It can be overwhelming, but it doesn't go away. And so you learn how to manage your time better. There's a possibility you might be retired, and then you have even more time on your hands, theoretically. But even if not, if you're still working, you know how to block out time. We all have to make time for the things that matter and the things that have to get done. That's just a part of life. If you're on this earth long enough, you have to get somewhat decent at doing that, or life will swallow you up. The 7th advantage that older adults have if they're just now learning to play guitar is discipline. This is a big one. And this kind of goes in line with some of the other things we've said. If you are on this earth long enough, you have to have self-discipline. It's just, to be successful as a person and to get things done, you have to have discipline, because at a certain point, there's nobody, your parents are not there to make you do things anymore. You're the one who has to make yourself do it. And we've kind of mastered that later in life. We don't need someone to tell us this needs to be done, this has to be done. We just do it. So discipline is number 7 on the list. Number 8 on our list is an appreciation for learning. You hear this a lot in entrepreneurial circles where they tell you to, focus on the journey, not just the end result. As you get older, you kind of amass these skills that you at one time didn't know how to do, and you're proud of it. And you start to appreciate the journey, the actual learning. So this is one thing I think just by virtue of being older that we learn to do is appreciate the process more. And again, will cause you to stick with it. The 9th advantage that older adults have if they're just learning to play guitar is reduced performance pressure. Look, we don't care what people think as we get older. Sometimes to our detriment. Dress socks and sandals. I mean, that's kind of the cliche of the old man, right? We don't care as much what people think about us. And that's very liberating and very freeing. So there's no need to really compete with others. We just do things because we want to do them. And so there's not this outside pressure of, I have to do this, or I'm going to have to get out and perform. You might still want to, but you're not really worried about those young whippersnappers and trying to be the best at X, right? You're just trying to do the thing. Okay, guys, and this one is a big one. Number 10, broad musical exposure. This one here, to me, is probably the most important. Those kids today, I know that's what I sound like. Kids today, they're not exposed to music like we were. There's not a scarcity anymore. They'll pick up songs that are in TikTok videos or in video games, but it's so fragmented now that there's so many artists everywhere. Everybody's putting out music. It's not as much of a big deal. Remember New Music Tuesdays? Remember when Tuesdays were the day? It changed to Fridays, but Tuesdays back in the day, that was the day when if your favorite band was putting out a new album, I remember when Pearl Jam would put out a new album, and Lord, you wanted to be at the record store or you weren't going to get it. There was no online ordering. When Versus came out after 10 with Pearl Jam, man, you better get in line. Same thing with tickets, to go to concerts. Boy, if it was a very popular band at the moment, man, you had to go. You had to go and get them. I'm old enough to where I remember a lot of transitions with how we listened to music. Going back as far as vinyl, I had Michael Jackson's Thriller. I was in 5th grade, but I got that on the double. It opened up the double vinyl. There was something about listening to music and looking at the liner notes, and then it went to cassettes and you made mixtapes for your friends. And then CDs. There was that physical artifact that you still, and geeks like me would look at the producers and look at where it was recorded. And, when you'd look and see that REM, a band that seemed so far away from me, even though they were a Georgia band, and I'm in Tennessee, if they would record at Ardent Studios in Memphis, man, that was something. That's cool, and you just absorb every bit of it. And you just had time to just listen to the album and really appreciate it. Everything's so fast now that the kids these days, they're at a disadvantage when it comes to that. We just absorbed music differently, and it stayed with us longer, and it's tied to so many memories with us. And that will help us in our guitar playing. And another thing is with our ear, we actually stopped to smell the roses a little bit more. And there are a lot of these nuances that you probably don't realize. Just because you're not a musician, your ear has developed over years. And if you're hearing things, there might have been a time, the third listen to this song, you heard something that popped out at you because you sat with it, you took time with it. That is a great advantage to have. You'll be able to hear things more clearly and learn the guitar, I think, faster because you'll hear things. It's not so Greek to you. If you hear the riff to Satisfaction or you hear Running Down a Dream, as soon as you make the right movements, and your ear's going to immediately recognize it, because you were there. You were there the first time. You remember the first time that came on the radio and you're like, wow, this song rocks, So guys, those are the 10 advantages that you have as an older adult if you're just now wanting to play guitar. Don't let anyone tell you any different, right? Yes, we have some things as we get older, dexterity, certain things, maybe arthritis, right? We do have some challenges that we're going to have to face in learning to play guitar as an older adult, but we also have all these things that are benefits, right? That you just can't get without life experience. Guys, I want to invite you to go to MyPOVGuitar.com. If you are an older adult and you're wanting to pick up guitar, I'm going to help you shave off years. We all know time is valuable. You already have all these things that are in your favor. Let me help you stack the deck even more, okay? Because I made a bunch of mistakes growing up learning to play. I'm not really properly trained. I learned so much of this on my own. I did take a few lessons, but mainly it was just stabbing around. I would try to learn songs off the radio. I would tape them on cassettes and learn off the radio. I'm showing my age now, but I think that made me a better feeling player, but it took a long time. I can help you get there, and you don't have to do all that. Guys, we start at the very beginning and teach you how to hold the guitar, how to hold the pick, how to tune the guitar, teach you how to read chord diagrams and tablature, which is so much easier because it's from your point of view. Guys, this will shave years off your learning experience at MyPOVGuitar.com, the beginner course, and we'll see you in the next lesson.